The notification sound from our shared tablet made me look up from my laptop. Dana had left it open on the kitchen counter, and I could see her group chat lighting up with messages. What I read there would change everything. Ghost him for a month. He'll crawl back and obey like a trained dog, Maya had written. Yes! Eric needs a reality check. You're too good for him anyway, Jenna replied with laughing emojis. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Dana's response made me freeze. Already packed for the content retreat. Aiden's picking me up tomorrow. Eric won't know what hit him. Time to reset the power balance in this marriage. I sat there staring at the screen, my coffee growing cold in my hands. My wife of 3 years was planning to ghost me as some twisted psychological manipulation tactic, and apparently she was doing it with her gym trainer boyfriend named Aiden. I'm Eric Matthews, 32 years old, and I work as a software developer for a mid-sized tech company in downtown Seattle. Dana is my wife, though apparently that title doesn't mean what I thought it did. She's a lifestyle influencer with about 50,000 followers who worship her perfectly curated Instagram feed showcasing our dream marriage. What a joke. I quietly closed the tablet and went back to my laptop, but my mind was racing. 3 years of marriage, and this is what it had come to? Dana plotting with her friends to psychologically manipulate me while cheating with some muscle-bound trainer named Aiden? The apartment around me suddenly felt different. Everything looked the same. The expensive white leather couch Dana had insisted on, the industrial-style coffee table that cost more than my first car, the wall of fake succulents she used as backdrop for her content. But now it all felt like props in someone else's play. I spent the rest of the evening acting normal, asking Dana about her day, listening to her complain about brand partnerships and engagement rates. She was a good actress, I'll give her that. Not once did she mention her upcoming retreat or the fact that she was planning to ghost her own husband. That night, as she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and planned my next move. If Dana wanted to play games, I could play games too, but I'd be playing by my own rules. The next morning, Dana left for her content retreat, with 2 suitcases and a kiss on my cheek that felt like a Judas betrayal. I'll be out of touch for a while, babe. Need to disconnect and find my creative center, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. Of course, honey. Take all the time you need, I replied with a smile that probably looked more genuine than hers. As soon as her Uber disappeared around the corner, I called my best friend Tom. I need your help with something, I said when he answered. What's up, man? Dana's cheating on me, and she's trying to ghost me as some psychological power play. I found out yesterday. There was a long pause. Jesus, Eric, are you sure? Completely sure. I saw the group chat messages. She's with her trainer right now, probably posting fake sunset photos to make it look like she's at some wellness retreat. What do you want to do? I looked around the apartment that suddenly felt like a prison. I want to disappear first. Tom came over that afternoon with his pickup truck. He's a contractor, built like a linebacker, but with the dry sense of humor of a philosophy professor. We've been friends since college, and he's one of the few people who never bought into Dana's perfect wife act. So what's the plan? He asked, surveying our living room. Simple. If she wants to ghost me, she can come back to a real ghost town. We started with the joint bank accounts. I transferred my half of our savings to a new account Dana didn't know about. Legally, it was my money too, and I had every right to it. Then I canceled the credit cards that were in my name, changed all my passwords, and transferred the car title to my name only, something I should have done years ago. The furniture was trickier. Most of it was purchased with my income, but Dana had picked everything out. I decided to put it all in storage. If she wanted it back after the divorce, she could have it. But she wouldn't be coming back to the comfortable life she'd taken for granted. Think she'll notice the couch is missing? Tom asked as we loaded the expensive leather sectional into a moving truck. Only if it stops getting likes on Instagram, I replied. We worked systematically through the apartment. The dining table that seated 8 people we'd never invited over. The bedroom furniture from some overpriced boutique in Capitol Hill. The kitchen appliances that Dana used mainly as props for her cooking content. She actually lived on meal delivery services and protein bars. By evening, the apartment was empty except for Dana's personal belongings, which I packed neatly into boxes and left in the center of the living room. On top of the boxes, I placed a manila envelope containing divorce papers and a simple note. I learned my place, far from you. The divorce papers were real. I'd visited a lawyer that afternoon during my lunch break, and while the process would take time, the paperwork was legitimate and properly filed. Tom and I stood in the empty apartment as the sun set through the floor-to-ceiling windows Dana loved so much. You sure about this? Tom asked. I looked at my phone. No messages from Dana, no calls, no good morning text or sunset selfie. The ghosting had already begun. She made her choice, I said. I'm just making mine. For 5 days, my phone stayed silent. Dana was true to her word about the ghosting strategy. No calls, no texts, no social media interactions. Meanwhile, her Instagram showed a carefully curated digital detox retreat with photos of sunrises, inspirational quotes, and artfully arranged healthy meals. I knew they were all fake. Aiden's gym had posted a story showing him at some mountain resort, and the backgrounds matched Dana's photos perfectly. She was documenting her affair and calling it self-care. I spent those 5 days moving into a new apartment across town, a modest one-bedroom that was actually nicer than the sterile showcase Dana had insisted on. I also started changing my life in other ways, joined a new gym, updated my LinkedIn profile, and even went on a few casual dates through apps Dana had forbidden me to have. It felt like waking up from a 3-year coma. On Thursday night at 11:13 p.m., my phone finally rang. Dana's name flashed on the screen, but I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again, and again. The voicemail was panicked. "Eric, what the hell is going on? The apartment is empty. Where's all our stuff? Call me back right now." I deleted it without listening to the rest. She called 16 more times that night. I know because I counted. Each call went to voicemail, and each voicemail got more frantic and angry. The next morning, I got a text from Tom. "Your wife showed up at my work site looking for you. Told her I hadn't seen you in months. She looked like she'd been crying." Good, I thought. Let her feel what it's like to be ghosted. But Dana wasn't going to give up that easily. She started calling my work number, showing up at my old gym, even contacting my parents in Portland. The problem was, I'd already told my parents about the divorce and shown them screenshots of her group chat messages. They weren't exactly sympathetic to her cause. The real breakthrough came when Dana's carefully constructed online image started cracking. Her followers began asking questions about her marriage, especially after someone noticed that all photos of me had been quietly deleted from her feed during her retreat. "Where's your husband? Haven't seen Eric in your posts lately," one comment read. "Are you guys okay?" "Seems like you're going through something," said another. Dana's response was to post a cryptic quote about toxic relationships and choosing yourself, which only made her followers more suspicious. The lifestyle influencer world is built on authenticity, and Dana's audience could smell fake from a mile away. Then her brand partnerships started asking questions. When you're selling the dream of a perfect marriage and suddenly your husband vanishes from your content, sponsors get nervous. I watched it all unfold from my new apartment, eating takeout Chinese food and feeling something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace. Dana found me on a Saturday morning at my new gym. I was halfway through a workout when she appeared next to the weight rack, looking frantic and furious. "We need to talk," she said loudly enough for half the gym to hear. I finished my set and looked at her calmly. "Do we?" "Don't play games with me, Eric. What you did was illegal. You can't just steal our furniture and empty our bank accounts." "I took my half of the money from accounts with my name on them, and I moved furniture I paid for. Nothing illegal about that." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to an angry whisper. "You're trying to ruin my life." "I'm just giving you what you wanted," I said, toweling off my hands. "Distance, space, freedom to be with Aiden without having to sneak around." Her face went white. "How did you—" "Your group chat, Dana. You left the tablet open. I saw everything. The ghosting plan, the power play strategy, the affair, all of it." For a moment, she looked genuinely shocked. Then the anger returned, stronger than before. "You had no right to read my private messages. You had no right to cheat on your husband and plot psychological manipulation tactics with your friends." People were starting to stare. Dana noticed and tried to lower her voice again. "Look, we can work this out. I made some mistakes, but we can fix this. Just come home and we'll talk." "There is no home, Dana. I moved out. The divorce papers are filed. We're done." She grabbed my arm. "You can't just throw away 3 years of marriage." I gently removed her hand. "You threw it away when you decided to ghost your husband and sleep with your trainer. I just cleaned up the mess." That's when she really lost it. The careful influencer mask slipped completely, and she started yelling about how I was destroying her career, ruining her reputation, and sabotaging her future. Half the gym stopped their workouts to watch the show. Security eventually asked her to leave. As they escorted her toward the exit, she turned back and shouted, "This isn't over, Eric. You can't just disappear on me." The irony was apparently lost on her. The next phase of Dana's campaign involved our mutual friends, or rather, the people I'd thought were mutual friends. It turned out that most of them were really Dana's friends who had tolerated me as an accessory to her lifestyle brand. The first to contact me was Jennifer Walsh, Dana's college roommate and current enabler-in-chief. "Eric, we need to talk about what you're doing to Dana," she said when she called me at work. "What am I doing to Dana?" "You know exactly what you're doing. The silent treatment, the empty apartment, the divorce papers. It's cruel and manipulative." I almost laughed. "Cruel and manipulative? Did Dana show you the group chat where she planned to ghost me for a month to make me crawl back and obey like a trained dog?" Silence on the other end. "I'll take that as a no," I continued. "Did she mention that she's been cheating on me with her trainer?" That's not what this is about," Jennifer stammered. "That's exactly what this is about. Dana wanted to play psychological games with her husband, and now she's upset that I didn't follow the script." Jennifer's voice hardened. "You're being vindictive. The Eric I know wouldn't do something like this." "The Eric you know was a doormat who let his wife walk all over him while she planned his emotional destruction with her friends. That Eric is gone." The call ended abruptly. Similar conversations followed with other members of Dana's social circle. Marcus, who ran in the same influencer crowd, Sarah, who worked at Dana's favorite boutique, David, who I'd thought was a genuine friend but turned out to be more interested in Dana's social media connections than our friendship. They all had the same message. I was being unreasonable, vindictive, and cruel. I needed to forgive Dana and work things out. Marriage was about compromise and second chances. None of them seemed to think Dana owed me an apology for the cheating or the psychological manipulation plot. That was just relationship drama that could be worked through with communication and counseling. The final straw came when they organized an intervention. They ambushed me at Tom's house on a Wednesday evening. I'd gone over to help him with a kitchen renovation project, and when I arrived, I found Tom looking uncomfortable and apologetic, with Dana, Jennifer, Marcus, and Sarah all sitting in his living room like some kind of tribunal. "What is this?" I asked. "We're worried about you," Jennifer said in the tone of voice people use when they are about to tell you that your behavior is unacceptable. "Worried about me?" Dana leaned forward. "Eric, you're not acting like yourself. This whole revenge thing isn't who you are." "You're right," I said. "The old Eric would have taken your ghosting treatment, welcomed you back with open arms, and pretended the affair never happened. The old Eric would have apologized to you for making you feel like you needed to cheat." "That's not what we're saying," Marcus interjected. "Then what are you saying?" Sarah spoke up. "We're saying that marriage is hard work, and you can't just run away when things get difficult." I stared at her. Run away? Dana literally ran away to a mountain resort with her boyfriend and refused to answer my calls for 5 days. That's the definition of running away. "She was trying to get your attention," Jennifer said. "Sometimes people make mistakes when they're feeling neglected in a relationship." Feeling neglected? I worked 50-hour weeks to pay for the lifestyle she needed for her Instagram content. I supported her career, attended every networking event, and smiled for every couple photo she posted. What more attention did she need? "You were emotionally distant," Dana said quietly. "We never talked anymore. You were always working or on your computer." "I was working to pay for our life. The apartment you loved, the furniture you picked out, the vacations you documented, the restaurant meals you photographed. Someone had to earn the money for your content creation." The room fell silent for a moment. Then Jennifer tried again. "Look, you're both hurt and angry, but you love each other. You can work through this." "I loved the woman I married," I said, "but that woman wouldn't have cheated on me and then tried to gaslight me into thinking it was my fault." "Gaslighting is a very serious accusation," Marcus said. I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots I'd saved of Dana's group chat. "Let me read you something," I said. "Ghost him for a month. He'll crawl back and obey like a trained dog." That's Jennifer's message. Here's Dana's response. "Time to reset the power balance in this marriage." And here's my personal favorite from Sarah. "Men need to be reminded who's really in charge sometimes." I looked up at their shocked faces. "You all helped plan this. You encouraged Dana to psychologically manipulate her husband, and now you're upset that I didn't react the way you wanted me to." "We were just trying to help Dana stand up for herself," Sarah said weakly. "Stand up for herself? Against what? A husband who worked to support her dreams and never asked for anything in return except basic loyalty?" Dana finally spoke up. "I felt trapped, Eric, like I was losing myself in our marriage." "So you found yourself in Aiden's bed?" The words hung in the air like a slap. Tom, who had been silent through the whole confrontation, finally spoke. "I think you all need to leave now." "Tom," Jennifer started. "No," he said firmly. You came into my house to gang up on my friend and tell him he should accept being cheated on and psychologically manipulated. That's not happening here." As they filed out, Dana stopped at the door. "This isn't who you are, Eric. You're better than this revenge fantasy." I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. The woman I'd married had been kind, ambitious, and supportive. This person was a stranger wearing her face. "You're right," I said. I am better than this. I'm better than accepting betrayal and calling it love. I'm better than being someone's trained dog. And I'm definitely better than staying married to someone who thinks emotional manipulation is a valid relationship strategy." She left without another word. After the failed intervention, Dana's behavior became increasingly erratic. She started showing up at my workplace, calling my boss to complain about my mental state, and even contacted my landlord to claim I was suicidal and needed a wellness check. Each incident made her look more unhinged and made me look more reasonable by comparison. The real turning point came when she made a crucial mistake. She tried to weaponize social media against me. Dana posted a long Instagram story about toxic masculinity and emotional abuse, painting herself as the victim of a controlling husband who had stolen her possessions and abandoned her in her time of need. She didn't mention my name, but anyone who knew us could connect the dots. The post backfired spectacularly. Her followers, who had been suspicious about my sudden disappearance from her content, started asking pointed questions in the comments. Some had done their own detective work and found Aiden's social media posts from the same locations as Dana's solo retreat. "Girl, weren't you just posting about your amazing marriage?" one comment read. "This sounds like there's another side to this story," said another. "Why did you delete all the photos with your husband if he's the one who left?" Dana's attempts to control the narrative only made things worse. She started deleting comments and blocking followers, which created a Streisand effect that drew even more attention to the situation. Then someone, I suspect it was Tom, though he never admitted it, leaked screenshots of the group chat messages to a popular influencer gossip account. The screenshots went viral within hours. Dana's "ghost him until he obeys" strategy was exposed to thousands of people, along with the evidence of her affair and the psychological manipulation plot she'd hatched with her friends. The internet, which loves nothing more than watching a fake influencer get exposed, tore her apart. Her remaining brand partnerships evaporated overnight. Companies don't want to be associated with cheating scandals and psychological manipulation tactics, especially when the evidence is splashed across social media. Dana's follower count began dropping rapidly as people realized her perfect marriage content had been completely fabricated. But instead of accepting responsibility, she doubled down. Dana's next strategy was legal intimidation. She hired a lawyer and sent me a cease and desist letter claiming I was harassing her, stalking her, and defaming her character online. The letter was full of legal-sounding language about intentional infliction of emotional distress and tortious interference with business relationships. It demanded that I return all marital property immediately, stop spreading false information about her, and pay damages for her lost income. I took the letter to my own attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Kim who specialized in divorce cases. "This is mostly bluster," Patricia said after reviewing the letter. "She doesn't have a case for harassment or stalking since you've been avoiding her, not pursuing her. The defamation claim is weak because truth is an absolute defense, and you have screenshots proving everything you've said." "What about the business interference claim?" "That's the most frivolous part. She lost her brand partnerships because her own behavior was exposed, not because you interfered with her contracts. If anything, she defamed herself by posting fake content about her marriage." Patricia drafted a response that was a masterpiece of legal politeness wrapped around a steel core. It pointed out that Dana had no legal basis for any of her claims, that I had acted within my rights in all matters, and that any further frivolous legal threats would be met with a countersuit for abuse of process. The response also included a formal discovery request for all of Dana's communications with Aiden, her financial records related to her influencer business, and documentation of her content retreat expenses, which we suspected had been funded by our joint accounts. Dana's lawyer never responded to our letter, but Dana wasn't finished. If she couldn't win through legal intimidation, she would try a different approach: public sympathy. Dana's next move was to reinvent herself as a survivor of emotional abuse. She started posting content about healing from toxic relationships and rebuilding after betrayal, conveniently leaving out the fact that she was the one who had done the betraying. She gave interviews to lifestyle blogs about recognizing the signs of a controlling partner and finding the strength to leave an unhealthy marriage. In her version of events, I was the emotionally distant workaholic who had isolated her from friends and family, monitored her communications, and retaliated with financial abuse when she tried to assert her independence. It was a compelling narrative, and it might have worked if the internet hadn't already seen the screenshots of her group chat messages. Every article about Dana's survival story was flooded with comments from people pointing out the evidence of her affair and manipulation plot. The more she tried to paint herself as a victim, the more people shared the screenshots showing her planning to psychologically manipulate her husband. Her friends, the ones who had participated in the intervention, began distancing themselves from her. Jennifer deleted her social media accounts entirely after people started commenting on her posts about the trained dog message. Marcus and Sarah blocked anyone who mentioned Dana's name. Even Aiden, her affair partner, seemed to be having second thoughts. His gym's social media presence became notably less active, and several online reviews mentioned that he was unprofessional with clients' wives. But Dana's victim campaign had one unintended consequence. It brought her behavior to the attention of people who knew both of us professionally. I work in Seattle's tech industry, which is smaller and more interconnected than most people realize. Word travels fast in our professional circles, and Dana's public campaign was generating the wrong kind of attention. Several colleagues reached out to express their support and share their own experiences with Dana's behavior at company events. Apparently, her treatment of me in public had been noticed and discussed long before our marriage fell apart. "She always talked to you like you were her employee, not her husband," one coworker told me. "We used to wonder why you put up with it." "She'd interrupt you constantly at parties and correct you in front of clients," said another. "It was uncomfortable to watch." These conversations were eye-opening. I'd been so deep in the dysfunction that I hadn't realized how obvious it was to outside observers. But the professional consequences weren't limited to my workplace. Dana's influencer career depended on brand partnerships and networking relationships, and her public meltdown was making her toxic to work with. A marketing executive I knew through industry events told me that Dana had been quietly blacklisted by several major brands. "Nobody wants to deal with the drama," she explained. "When someone's personal life becomes a public spectacle, it reflects badly on any company that partners with them." Dana's attempts to rebuild her image were failing because she couldn't control the narrative. Every time she posted about moving forward and healing, someone would comment with links to the screenshots or articles about her affair. She was trapped in a cycle of her own making, and her increasingly desperate attempts to escape only made things worse. That's when she decided to make one final play. She would try to win me back. Dana's reconciliation campaign began with flowers delivered to my office, expensive arrangements with cards that said things like, "I miss us," and "Can we try again?" I threw them away without reading the full messages. Next came the letters, long, handwritten notes about how she'd made mistakes but had learned from them, how she realized now that I was the most important thing in her life, how she was willing to do whatever it took to rebuild our marriage. The letters went in the trash with the flowers. When those tactics failed, she tried showing up at places she knew I'd be: my gym, my favorite coffee shop, the grocery store near my apartment. Each time, she would approach me with tears in her eyes and a speech about how sorry she was. "I know I hurt you," she said during one particularly dramatic encounter at a Starbucks. "But people make mistakes, Eric. That doesn't mean we have to throw away everything we built together." "What did we build together, Dana? A fake marriage for your Instagram feed?" "That's not fair. We had real moments. Real love." "Real love doesn't involve cheating and psychological manipulation." I was confused and scared. Aiden meant nothing to me. It was just physical. "And the ghosting plan? Was that just physical too?" She couldn't answer that. The reconciliation attempts became more frequent and more public. Dana seemed to think that if she could create enough of a scene, I would eventually give in just to make it stop. She was wrong. The final reconciliation attempt happened at Tom's birthday party. Dana somehow found out about it and showed up uninvited, dressed in the outfit she'd worn on our first date. "We need to talk," she announced when she saw me. "No, we don't. Please, Eric, just 5 minutes. Let me explain everything." The entire party was watching now. Tom looked like he wanted to call security, but I held up a hand to stop him. "Fine," I said. 5 minutes. We stepped out onto Tom's back patio, away from the crowd but still visible through the sliding glass doors. "I made a mistake," Dana began. "The biggest mistake of my life. But I love you, and I know you still love me too. I loved the woman I married, but that woman wouldn't have done what you did. People change, Eric. I can change back." "Change back? You mean go back to pretending to be someone you're not?" "That's the problem, Dana. I don't think you were ever the person I thought I married." She stepped closer, reaching for my hands. "That's not true. The woman you fell in love with is still here. She just got lost for a while." I pulled my hands away. "The woman I fell in love with wouldn't have cheated on me. She wouldn't have plotted with her friends to psychologically manipulate me. And she definitely wouldn't have tried to gaslight me into thinking it was all my fault. I never said it was your fault. You said I was emotionally distant, that I neglected you, that you felt trapped in our marriage. How is that not blaming me for your choices? Dana's composure finally cracked. What do you want from me? I've apologized. I've admitted I was wrong. What more can I do? Nothing, I said quietly. There's nothing you can do. Some things can't be fixed with apologies. So that's it? You're just going to throw away 3 years of marriage because I made one mistake? One mistake? Dana, you had an affair for months. You plotted with your friends to psychologically manipulate me. You tried to ghost me as a power play. You lied to your followers about our relationship. You tried to turn our mutual friends against me. You threatened me with lawsuits. You launched a public campaign to paint me as an abuser. That's not one mistake. That's a pattern of behavior. She stared at me for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen, and now we both have to live with the consequences. I turned to go back inside, but she grabbed my arm. Eric, please. I'll do anything. I'll delete all my social media accounts. I'll get therapy. I'll sign a post-nup agreement. Whatever you want. I looked at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. I want a divorce, Dana. That's what I've wanted since the day I found out about your affair and your manipulation plot. Nothing's changed. She let go of my arm and stepped back like I'd slapped her. You've changed, she said. The Eric I married would never be this cold. You're right, I said. The Eric you married was a pushover who would have forgiven anything to avoid conflict. But that Eric is gone. You eliminated him when you decided to treat your marriage like a game you could win through manipulation and betrayal. I went back inside and left her standing alone on the patio. It was the last time we spoke before the final confrontation. The divorce proceedings moved forward steadily over the next 2 months. Dana's attempts to claim half of my retirement accounts and spousal support were rejected when Patricia presented evidence of her affair and the group chat screenshots showing premeditated emotional manipulation. The judge was particularly unimpressed with Dana's claims of financial hardship, given that she had spent marital funds on her affair and had lost her income due to her own public behavior rather than any action on my part. But Dana wasn't going to go quietly. The final confrontation happened on a rainy Thursday evening in November. I was leaving my office building when I found Dana, Jennifer, and Marcus waiting by my car in the parking garage. We need to talk, Dana said. The only talking we need to do is through our lawyers. You're destroying her life, Jennifer said. Is that really what you want? I looked at the three of them, Dana desperate and angry, Jennifer self-righteous and enabling, Marcus uncomfortable but loyal to his social circle. I'm not destroying anything, I said. I'm just refusing to be part of Dana's fantasy anymore. Fantasy, Marcus spoke up. You were married for 3 years. We were married for 3 years, but the marriage was a fantasy. Dana was performing the role of a loving wife for her social media audience while planning to manipulate and cheat on her actual husband. When I found out and refused to play along, she tried to paint me as the villain. You are the villain, Jennifer snapped. You abandoned your wife when she needed you most. I left my wife when I discovered she was cheating on me and plotting to psychologically manipulate me with her friends. There's a difference. Dana stepped forward. Eric, please, can we just talk alone, without the lawyers and the anger and the audience? Just you and me, like we used to? We never talked, Dana. You talked, and I listened. You performed, and I applauded. You decided what our life would look like, and I paid for it. That wasn't a conversation. That was a monologue. That's not true. When was the last time you asked me what I wanted? Not what I thought about your content ideas or your career plans or your friend drama. What I actually wanted for my own life? She opened her mouth to answer, then closed it again. You can't remember, can you? Because you never asked. I was just a supporting character in the Dana show. You're being cruel, Marcus said. I'm being honest. For the first time in 3 years, I'm being completely honest about what our marriage actually was. Dana's composure finally shattered completely. Fine. You want honesty? Here's honesty. I settled for you, Eric. You were safe and boring, and you worshipped me, and I thought that was enough. But it wasn't. I needed more than your devotion and your paycheck. I needed passion and excitement and someone who could match my energy. The parking garage fell silent except for the sound of rain echoing off concrete. There it is, I said quietly. The truth, finally. Jennifer and Marcus looked shocked. They hadn't expected Dana to drop the victim act and reveal what she really thought of me. I didn't mean, Dana started. Yes, you did. And you know what? I'm glad you finally said it. Because now I know for certain that I'm making the right choice. I walked to my car and opened the door. We're done here. All of us. Dana, I'll see you in court for the final hearing. Jennifer Marcus, lose my number. As I drove away, I could see them in my rearview mirror, standing in the rain, finally confronting the reality of what Dana had become. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks later,